Morning, welcome to Sydney. Behind me is probably one of the world's most renowned landmarks. The Sydney Opera House was built, groundbreaking was built in 1959 and it finally finished in 1973. The original budget was about $7 million and there was over 200 architects that competed to have the rights, and the Danish architect Utzon won. And actually, he never finished it. He was so frustrated with all the escalating costs, and the engineering at the time was so difficult. And it finally finished in 1973, and without the architect attending. It's a magnificent piece of architecture, and it's funny, his son has come back to help renovate and to redesign some of the original designs. So it really is fascinating, and it's a symbol of Sydney. One of the favorite things I like to do to get to know a city is doing a walking tour. And Sydney has Sydney architecture walks, and they are actually architects that want to share the city, and they organize intimate walking and bicycle tours that are open to the general public. We did a city walking tour where we walked through, obviously we toured the Jorn Utzon's famed opera house, and we walked and we learned about it and the hardships he went through and the cost overruns. So I thought that was, and you know, it's one of the most internationally recognized symbols of Sydney. And then we walked around looking at the modern architecture and the old architecture of Sydney, from the old immigration houses and then to Renzo Piano's Aurora Place, which is a stunning glass, I guess symbolic gesture to Utzon's Sydney Opera House. Really amazing glass piece and canopy. And so that's one thing I would really recommend is Sydney's architecture walking tour. The first night we arrived to Sydney, we went to North Bondi Fish, which is a really popular restaurant, and what better way to experience Sydney than going to a fish house. It's right on Bondi Beach, exceptional seafood, and it's busy, and it's a great atmosphere. We started out with fried arrow squid with chilies, and that was really wonderful. Very similar to our squid up in the BC coast here. And then we started, our next dish we had a taco. It was a Skull Island prawn taco, and it was deep fried, panko crusted with spicy jalapenos. And then the fish that Michelle wanted to try, because I've had it before, it's roasted Cone Bay barramundi. And barramundi is very dense, almost like a snapper. And that was really wonderful. And then roasted corn, of course, and I love their presentation with the whole cob. And then I had, oh, this was amazing, charcoal roasted yamba prawns. And they're large prawns in the shell, and they were really succulent with garlic, chili, and herbs. So that was our first night in Sydney. Nomad is one of the best new restaurants of Sydney, and it's really a cellar door in the city where the food and wine showcase the best local produce grown and raised by Australian farmers, grape growers, and winemakers. The restaurant is attached to a wine store, and the menu draws on the flavors of the Mediterranean using local Australian ingredients to create a dynamic and seasonal driven menu. It's a really hip and happening restaurant. A lot of the plates are shared plates, served family style, and it was a really loud restaurant. It really is hip and happening. But what I was really impressed with, they use classic techniques from the open kitchen. They do smoking and curing and cheese making and wood firing and pickling. So it really is a comforting restaurant. We went on this city tour called My Sydney Detour. and it's run by this enterprising young guy, and you drive in a 64 Holden, which was authentic Australian car, which was started by Chevrolet way back in the early 60s. And at lunchtime, he took us, to a local restaurant, and it was called Thai-rific. And this is a chain of Thai restaurants, and it's really funky and hip, great atmosphere, informal. We had a wonderful lab, which is a minced Thai salad. Minced chicken is very, very spicy. And we had a Thai beef salad, which is char-grilled marinated beef, served with sliced cucumber and mint and red onions, cilantro and carrots. And it's drizzled with a chili and lime dressing. And then we had pad thai, and I loved how they had the different types of chilies if you wanted to make it spicier, and always with, a traditional beef curry, which was exceptional. Mark Bess is certainly one of the most creative Australian chefs I've ever met. He started as an electrician, believe it or not, and he turned into an award-winning chef and restaurateur. And cooking is both an art form and a source of eternal dissatisfaction, writes Joe Stewart for Four International. In 1999, Mark, which is the restaurant, Marque, M-A-R-Q-U-E, which is French, turned 16 this year. And he opened a small suburban restaurant on a busy strip of Crown Street in Surrey Hills. And there was really nothing way back then. Now it's become such a haven for cool, funky restaurants like Billy Kwong's restaurant across the street. We started out with a pickled mussel with wakame rye cracker, and it looks like an oyster, a mussel. And it was really an interesting starter. Then we had poached oyster with a ham stock and rhubarb kimchi. And then we had a spanner crab mousse with corn, which was just exceptional, followed by a smoked eel with eel custard. Look how thin that is. It's just beautiful and delicate. We had a really confit of ocean trout, which was exceptional as well. This was roasted cauliflower boudin noir. So this is one of her signature dishes. It's roasted cauliflower, and then he's made a boudin noir, almost like a powder or a dirt. And this was a smoked grouper, which is almost like a danced sea bass with dehydrated scallop and sea asparagus. Next we had quail with blueberries and pickled carrot. And finally, this incredible sirloin wagyu with sauerkraut and gherkin. And for dessert, something very simple and almost comfort food, honeycomb with clotted cream. This is Billy Kwong's new restaurant. Celebrity food star chef, Australian chef, Kylie Kwong opened this great new restaurant in Potts Point. It combines the warmth and the charm of a neighborhood Chinese eating house with a dynamic showcase open kitchen in the back. And it's a really comfortable place for the community to meet, talk, eat, and drink. It's very lively. The food is classic Chinese. She is classic Australian Chinese food that Billy grew up with. But she uses local indigenous ingredients, local farmers, and products. This is a picture of a fish tartare. And then we had steamed noodles with Szechuan chili oil, herbs, and vegetables. They were really wonderful and kind of spicy. And then we had a wonderful duck, which was glazed with orange and honey and Chinese five spice. So this was a really superb dish. And in the back there's actually my favorite, steamed fish fillet with ginger, green onions, and soy sauce, which is always one of my favorite dishes. So that's Billy Kwong in Potts Point. One of the most sophisticated boutique hotels I've ever stayed in is the Langham Sydney. It's just finished after a newly $30 million renovation. It has 98 magnificent furnished rooms and suites, dramatic harbor views, quaint cobble streets. It's right in the Rocks district of Sydney, which is the old area of Sydney. It has the Great Bar on the Palm Court, phenomenal, where they have afternoon tea. The tea service is especially made for them by Wedgwood, and their cocktail bar is phenomenal. I remember we had a Negroni, and it was made with smoke, which was a really unique. It's pretty flashy and showy, but it really had that wild presentation. Their dining room is the Kent Street kitchen. It's very European chic, old school service with modern sophistication. Loved their food. And one of the things that really impressed me was the young, talented Filipino dessert chef. This looks like a cherry, but it's a cherry chocolate ganache inside with chocolate dirt. Very impressive, world-class dessert. Definitely a must too. And then this was a really interesting citrus sponge dessert, and he uses roasted corn, and he actually candied the corn silk as a garnish as well. So that's some of the really incredible desserts from the Kent Street kitchen. Certainly would recommend this amazing boutique hotel, the Langham Sydney. The Sydney Fish Market is the largest market of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere, and the third largest seafood market in terms of variety in the world. I first went there in 1995, and I was quite impressed with the selection. You really do have a wide variety and different types of seafood in the Southern Hemisphere. These are blue swimmer crabs, very different than our Dungeness crabs in the north, and baby octopus, which are great grilled, they're quickly sauteed. And then these are local Moreton Bay bugs. And I remember the first time I went down and I saw these bugs, and I'm going, what are these bugs? And they're a crustacean. They almost look like a cockroach, but they have a texture similar to lobster. So they're really very succulent. They're quite expensive as well. So there's Moreton Bay bugs and there's Balmain Bay bugs, depending on the area where they come from. This is the Australian crayfish, where it looks like a lobster, but unlike the North American lobster, that you just have the big tail that you eat. They don't have the big pinchers like the North American lobsters do. And then last you have the scampies, which are really succulent, like a cross between a shrimp and a lobster. So this is really one of my favorites, sweet, succulent, almost like a prawn-like crustacean. One of the unique stores located at Sydney's Fish Market is Vic's Meat Market. And who would ever expect a meat market at the Sydney Fish Market? But it is really, truly one of the most impressive meat markets, butchers that I've ever seen. And they're open displayed cases that exert ozone to keep the meat fresh and cold. You walk into the store and it's like walking into a big cooler with all these incredible meat displays, from lamb to kangaroo to various cuts of beef. One of the most unique parts of this store, they have a Wagyu bar where you can get Australian or Japanese Wagyu beef, and it's it's a teppanyaki bar, and the Japanese believe that the best way to enjoy this type of beef is through the tradition of teppan style cooking. The heat, the speed, and the artistry of the special technique ensures the distinct marbling of Wagyu reaches its full flavor potential. And their teppan chef has over 30 years of experience, and it's really quite unique because you can try different cuts of beef. You can order 150 grams to 250 grams, and it's great to share it, and you can try it and pair it with Australia's best wine. The other thing that they have, which is quite interesting too, is the smoker. Smoking is really big in North America, and it's quite unique and new to Australia. So they brought a smoker from America, from Kansas, USA, and it's made by Yoder Smokers from Kansas. And they have the largest custom smoker in Australia. It's almost 2 tons, and they can hold almost 200 kilos of meat. And they smoke their meat with iron bark and apple wood. So you can get brisket, and you can get all pork butts are brined and then smoked. And then they have a house sauce, just like on a bun, smothered with, it's tomato base, and then it's mixed with onions, mustard, brown sugar, and peppers. And so you can get a classic pulled pork bun. After we finished breakfast, we started walking down the street in Bronte, and we found this incredible bakery called Iggy's Bakery, and we started chatting to them. We found out that the owner is from Montreal, and she's married to the bread maker who's from Boston, and they actually had a shop in Boston. They still have a bakery in Boston, which is run by his brother. And they were traveling, and they fell in love with Sydney, opened up this place in 2011, and they have this incredible bread that they're making. It's all country style, Levant style. They have country, they have a white rye, dark rye, French breadsticks, and they just opened up just up the block, a new production with brand new ovens, and it's one of the most amazing productions I've ever seen, with conveyor belts. But it's not big and commercial, but they're producing incredible French style, Levant style bread, and not only at the bakery, they have massive lineups. They sell to some of the top restaurants in Sydney. One of the most unique restaurants I've been to was in Bronte Beach, called the Three Blue Ducks. Wonderful breakfast, and I'm usually not a breakfast person, but they had an incredible muesli with a berry compote with fresh fruit and their own honey. The owners of this restaurant also own a farm, and talking about local, they also have a garden in the back of the restaurant with actually 3 chickens, and they use the eggs from the chicken as well. The breads that they get are from the bakery next door, from Izzy's Bakery, and I was really impressed with the breakfast. They had French toast with banana salted caramel. They had avocado toast with herb salad and slow roasted tomatoes. Michelle had corn fritters with guacamole, fermented cabbage, jalapeno, and herb salad with poached eggs. So it's a little quirky, and it's a very popular destination in Bronte Beach. I certainly recommend it. Kitchen by Mike is owned by chef Mike McKerney, who started at Neil Perry's restaurant in Rockpool. And it's one of the most unique restaurants. It's in Roseberry, which is a working class warehouse area. And there's a lot of IT designer shops in the area now. And it's basically a stripped down traditional restaurant. It's more like you take away the fancy cutlery, the reservations, and the waiters. And we discovered a canteen with a candid cooking and responsible food menu. And they set the menu daily based on what they find at the markets. And the commonality in every menu is seasonality, simplicity, and freshness. And above all, they believe how food is grown, cooked, and eaten locally. And you basically order at the counter, and you look at what's on display, and it's like a high-end, I guess, buffet, and you just pick what you want. the day we went, we had incredible roast chicken and just the bread. The bread was amazing as well. And the salads are incredible, and it's local and what's in season. And the canteen is actually housed in the former soup factory, which is kind of funny. And the building is shared by an Australian design company called Koskela. So, after you finish eating, you can just go and do shopping as well and look at some of these incredible design wares. And what I found interesting, they have their own garden in the back. And so in the garden, they can do tours of how healthy some of the plants that they are growing. And they've split up the garden into different areas which are good for your body. So I thought this was a very interesting restaurant, and great food, inexpensive, and a very talented chef.